trying to out-sustain ONIC. That's the baseline, the base strategy they always fall back on. If we can out-sustain you and then let Marky just demolish everyone, that can work. But with the Florin, with the additional healing and the negation of the healing reduction effect that the Florin can apply now, it's going to be very difficult. In a way, ONIC might even be able to out-sustain GeekFam, and especially with the bloom that it can be given to Irithel, to CW, it's going to be even more damage on the Irithel.
And it just gets really hard for the side of GeekFam in this position. But they're doing really well in the early game. Look at that. Utilizing the 2v1 very well. Using the trades, using that man advantage to create a good shove in and to force Sans away to make him miss some XP and gold.
It's definitely a lot different to what we saw from the first 3 games. But one of my concerns is after the early game passes, after it elapses, in the mid towards the late, when everyone is going to be centering around neutral objectives, these are when the 5v5 team fights begin. Who from the side of GeekFam will be able to shut CW down in the back line?
Technically, kind of, in the early game, the Uranus can kind of do that. A boy can still dive in the back as well, but that's where they have to be careful. They can't really walk through just all this damage coming in from ONIC and just expect to leave unscathed. And to do that, they have to make sure that Luke does not get taken out.
Fraser's Wrath dodged away from. Good sprint by Luke to get out of harm's way. And now, it's a big advantage that GeekFam have over the first turtle. Niall already pushing forward, jumping even forward with the help of the holy healing. A boy trying to zone Kyrie away, but he still is able to find that taunt. Keyboy getting a good stun in. And now it's GeekFam on that turtle. Kyrie still with a taunt, zoned away by Luke. He has that dash. Heavy spin prevents them back, and now it's going to be the retribution from Niles. He pins Kyrie down. The baptism even here, but another realm helps him for a bit. It's now Boots getting brought back by that Stampede, and ONIC are forced back for the first time in this series.
And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. A reset coming in with GeekFam being able to win this first neutral objective. Let's hope they can try and look for a domino effect in this early game.
Especially in the early game, the sustain is just a big problem for ONIC, but the silver lining is that they have a lot more damage later on down the line, and they have good wave clear. If they want to play that macro-heavy style, they have the Irithel, they have the Lilia, they can really clear waves out before GeekFam make the push, and they can allow Boost to try and be a bit more dynamic here as CW just chunks Beloyski down.
So in this matchup, right, everyone has kept talking about the supremacy of Rafaela in the gold lane, but when you compare it to a Florin, what's that matchup like?
The Florin Rafaela. I think the Florin is a bit more passive, a bit more unreliable when it comes to the healing, because you need to have targets to apply your skills to in order to heal your teammates. Later on, though, it's a lot bigger of a burst of healing, and in a way, there's more playmaking potential for the Florin because of the more spammable stun compared to the Holy Baptism. So I think in this case, in this scenario, there's more chances for Keyboy to make plays, but not in the front line. Because now there's a bit more range available to him. There's no reason for him to step up so far.
So we're expecting that this gold lane still favors the Bruno.
No,
but with that being said, Marky is behind on gold here.
Yeah, I think the Irithel definitely has an advantage in this lane. And because of that Rafaela, it does even out the odds, but ONIC have the same kind of healer. You have Keyboy on this floor, and sure, not as much more consistent healing, but because you already have the winning trades on for the Irithel, all you need to do is really farm. Use your abilities to farm to get to that point. You don't need to try to outscale the Bruno. You'll do that in the mid-game anyways. Bruno needs to wait for, the third item before he really gets online.
And this is when things get a little bit different, because both of these roamers, the ones that we've been discussing for the past few minutes, they're now going to be trying to help out for this setup in the neutral objective take. Kyrie, level 6.
He used the retreat. That means the turtle will be done for. It will be for GeekFam. That was also already a 2-level lead for Niall. A good decision, in my opinion, for ONIC to just retreat that orange buff. Not 100% secure, but now it only gives GeekFam more pressure to invade the jungle. Kyrie jumps in, gets a bit of damage, but Niall wins on that trade, even with the help of the healing from Keyboy on this Florin. Kyrie jumping forward once again, but it should be Niall who secures it, and yes, he does. Beloyski, no mana though, and that's a dive attempt from a boy. It's all just to distract ONIC to get that turret up top, and yes, they'll be able to crack it up. Kyrie looking for an opening again in these skirmishes, but GeekFam so far have been able to actually stop these engages from happening.
Kyrie is suffering. Miracle Arashi, Kyrie's suffering. He is 2 levels below.
Ooh.
That was close. That was close. But back to the point. Niall is level 9. Meanwhile, Kyrie's is level 7. Is this GEEKFAM strategy winning, or is it just ONIC trying to just funnel everything onto the gold lane and wait for CW to come online?
I think it's an effective strategy. They get the pressure in the EXP lane and they use the early obnoxiousness of the Uranus to try and stop Kyrie, absorb damage, and by out-sustaining, pushing back ONIC, finding info, letting the rest of GEEKFAM make the right calls. But you can see, it Boots, knowing that this is the case, tries to make an impact. He has damage, but it's just not at that point yet. He needs a bit more items, and you have to question if he's going to go for that utility playstyle, or seeing how desperate the situation is, maybe he'll go for a bit more damage and try and take matters into his own hands.
They still have that mid-game power spike. ONIC, Lilia, the Irisel, and I would say even the Paquito here has that mid-game power spike, and it's quite big. Meanwhile, for GEEKFAM, the Bruno really needs to wait for him to really get going, but so far he's doing really good in the farm department. He's gotten 2 turrets. That might actually speed up the process.